college professors talk film, providing insight, not assigning homework. I'm your host, Jen Subchakshai Bankard, and I'm here with an old man toy. He's not a chair. He's Greg Cass. How's it going, Greg?
And by the way, Zurg is our dad.
No!
I'm good, Jen. I'm excited to be talking about this. Actually, spoiler, we're talking about Toy Story. And I feel like despite how long we've been friends and so many things we have often talked about, I don't really know your relationship to the Toy Story franchise. So I'm excited to hear about it. And all that and more on a very special long take review with just the two of us because PT's afraid of animation.
I'm glad we got that out of the way really early. Yes, we are. It's just Greg and me today, and PT, as usual, feigned interest in seeing Toy Story and was like, "Sorry, guys, you're gonna have to do this one without me." So here we are, reviewing Toy Story 5, which is out in theaters now. The latest installment of the long-running franchise. And I had to look this up, but the first Toy Story movie was in 1995, Greg. It's like crazy. We can't possibly be that old. I don't know.
No.
And this one continues the story of Bonnie, who inherited the original toys from Andy of the prior movies. And Bonnie's having a hard time making friends, but a potentially quick fix to that problem arrives in the form of LilyPad, a device that seems to do everything, making Jessie, Bullseye, Buzz, and others obsolete. So that is the fundamental tension of this movie. Technology has arrived. If you are listening to us for the first time, we will have a spoiler-free section designed for those who have not yet seen the film. And then with a very clear alert, we will shift into spoiler mode for the rest of the show. Greg, if listeners think we're worth keeping around after listening to this episode, what can they do?
If listeners haven't already sold us off to Al of Al's Toy Barn and don't want to miss new episodes when they drop, please follow The Long Take Review wherever you get your podcasts. We host the feed on Substack at thelongtake.substack.com. That's thelongtake.substack.com. Speaking as somebody who messes it up every time I try to find where to link our episodes on my social media. But you can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, YouTube, and more. By the way, we're also on social media. You can follow the show on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, at The Long Take Review, and on Letterboxd at LTR Pod or at the hashtag LTR Pod. Back to you, Jen.
Thanks, Greg. So, as always, we'll start with the short take. What are our general feelings about Toy Story 5? I think we can also throw in here our relationship to the Toy Story franchise, because you're right, we haven't really talked about it all that much, which I don't know what that means, because we talk about almost everything else.
Especially movies. Yeah. Well, I would say that, especially rolling into this, I have been in the camp that the first three Toy Stories are a near flawless trilogy. And I thought Toy Story 4 didn't justify its own existence. There were parts of it I liked, things I thought were kind of clever, but I was really like, we should have just stopped at the absolute perfection of Toy Story 3. And so I'm in the Quentin Tarantino camp. He's the leader of our fan club. And my relationship to Toy Story is like mostly pretty positive. I remember like being excited when the original was coming out because it was well known that this was going to be the first computer animated film. And so, by the date you gave us, we would be about 12, which, no aspersions, a little old to like be really excited for the new Disney movie. I think I was a little towards my cynical phase, but I remember loving it. And I actually remember I went with my friend Melissa and we got dropped off, which shows she's 2 years older than me. So it shows we were older then. And then I remember begging her parents to take us right over to the Burger King nearby because they had the cool toys. So like we even were like that into it that we wanted. I don't think they were Happy Meal toys. I think that was part of the phase where you could like buy a more premium toy for like $5 or something with your meal. Anyway, and I like that a lot. Toy Story 2, I actually totally missed in theaters, and I have no explanation for why. It was not a deliberate choice. Again, we'd be looking more in the middle of high school, so I think I remember I chaperoned a youth group trip at my church, and the youth pastor had come up with a lesson built around Toy Story 2. So the first time I saw it was all about, and it totally works, right? Because it's kind of about immortality and like living a good life. So that's how I saw that. And then Toy Story 3, I absolutely went alone at a like 10 a.m. screening and bawled my eyes out as the only middle-aged man at the Lowe's, or I think it was a Lowe's in Harvard Square. And then Toy Story 4, I actually took my kid to. I think that was one of the first movies my son Henry was taken to, and the three of us did it at the time. And then for this one, I took both of my kids to it. So it is crazy that this franchise can kind of be tracked like across my lifetime and different stages of my life. But I will just throw in, that means I've always been a pretty big fan, and my initial feelings on this one are pretty positive. I thought this was a stronger entry than Toy Story 4. And to keep it largely spoiler free, I will say I think this one's made the choice to center Jessie much more than the other toys. And I think that was very smart because, Joan Cusack is great and Jessie's a great character. And I think she was a little more to the side in Toy Story 4. I have an ongoing joke with my kids because they make me see the Paw Patrol movies, and those always focus on just like one dog. It's like, we only have enough story for one. This is the Marshall movie. This is the Chase movie. Actually, I think it was the Chase movie and then the Sky movie. And yet the Toy Story movies have almost had to become that because there are so many characters, and it used to be that they just like let characters disappear, but now like we don't really do that. Everybody's still around or comes back, or after a certain point. So I think that was a really smart choice. I thought its handling of tech and the larger themes was pretty solid, and I'm sure we'll get into that more. But that being said, I also want to say I think this franchise is also showing its age in really weird ways, because we don't usually get this long of an animated franchise with no respect yet some respect. I think Tim Allen has some kind of weird dentures that have happened since, like, could you hear them? I could hear when Buzz is talking. I'm like, that doesn't sound quite right. And Tom Hanks we see much more often than Tim Allen. So I think whatever aging has occurred, I'm used to his newer voice. And then it's also just kind of strange that, you hear Mr. Potato Head and you're like, well, that's not Don Rickles. And it's like, oh yeah, he died like a long time ago. And the same with Slinky Dog has been replaced because that was Jim Varney. Mrs.
wow.
Potato Head, I think, just didn't really talk, or if she did, I'm pretty sure she had been replaced.
In this movie, you mean?
In this movie, yes.
Yeah, she did.
I'm so sorry for forgetting the actress's name, but she was George Costanza's mom from Seinfeld, but she has also passed on. So
I was trying to really quickly look up
her name. In Toy
name.
Story 4, I think the move was to just have those characters. They used like outtakes. So Mr. Potato Head might say like something you've heard him say before. But I think they finally went with recasting at least a couple of them this time. And, look, I'm a huge Muppet fan and I cannot get over when Kermit's voice changes. So, it's hard. But yes. So we just have to deal with it when you have the gift of a 30-year franchise at this point, which is just crazy in itself. But I walked out pretty positive. Both my kids loved it, and their opinion matters more. So how did you like it, Jen? And I assume, just knowing Jen Core, that you've always loved Toy Story, especially cuddly parts.
Yeah, I was going to say, Greg, I've never had a cynical face. So I've been in on these movies the whole time. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't realize how far back the beginning of the franchise went, but like you're saying, it does make so much sense that we grew up with these movies. And I think I saw the first three I definitely saw in theaters. Number 4, I was like, wait, I think I only saw that on Disney Plus. Why was that? That's embarrassing. Looking up the release date, my second child was like a month out from being born. So I was like, maybe even less than that. You know what I mean? So it was like, I was busy. I was not not in a position to just jauntily go to the movie theater in 2019. So, and I took my whole family to this. My kids weren't, one of them in particular. So my daughter, who's now 9, when she was really little, went through a Toy Story phase. And in particular, Buzz Lightyear. She was Buzz Lightyear for Halloween. And she really liked all the characters. And it was Toy Story 2 that we just had on repeat It was Toy Story 2 and Moana were like movies we watched at least once a day in rotation. And she was in on this. My youngest, who's 6 but about to be 7 very soon, is like not that into or like doesn't have the attachment to Toy Story, probably because when he was born it was Toy Story number 4 was coming out. So he was kind of like, what are we gonna go see? Like he's kind of dragging his feet, like, why are we gonna go to the movie theater for this? Like, but this movie totally won him over by the
Oh,
end.
good.
So, and he was laughing and thought it was really funny. And I think what was interesting is that the use of technology in this movie, and I don't know if I could say this about the other Toy Story movies, it really created this like relatability for my kids, because they also are torn sometimes between playing with their toys and being on the screen. So like, I think the way that this movie set up its premise, like kind of they felt seen in some ways. And I think our discussion after the movie definitely reinforced that too. Or they were like, yeah, sometimes I want to play with my toys, but I feel like it's hard to stop watching my iPad or whatever, right? So it gave them a little entry point into like being more self-aware, which I really appreciated. But yeah, I say that like I actually like Toy Story 4 quite a bit. I do like that it sort of like deals with Woody's midlife crisis. I think that I think was an interesting enough premise for that movie that I was into it. Also, Keanu Reeves' Duke Kaboom, hilarious. But this movie, I do think the story itself is stronger than that one, and like you said, kind of like feels like it's because it's sort of more up to date with the times, or is like addressing an issue that's very topical through its story. Feels like it's more justified in its existence. So I kind of understand what you're saying, even though I liked all these movies. I mean, I was thinking the other day, I'm like, none of these movies have been bad, and how many franchises can we say that about? Really, like it's kind of amazing. So yeah, I have a couple of like nitpicks, but that I'm sure we'll get into. But overall, I'm also very, very positive on this movie.
I have a couple follow-ups. Number one, that was really interesting from your Bankered Kid focus group. Where's the heat check? Are they more into Minions? Are they like this summer? And what about live action Moana? Are you going to the movies a lot in the next 2 weeks, or you're not so sure?
So every time we see a Minions trailer, they get very excited. They just generally think the Minions are very funny. So, but like
smart kids.
Yes, but it's funny because I think it's less from actually watching all of the Despicable Me movies, because I couldn't tell you actually how many of those they've seen. They've probably only seen the Minion ones all the way through. But they like listening to the Minions songs. So do you know about this? Like if you go on like Spotify or some music app, there's a bunch of Minion covers.
Oh.
So like you could listen to, there's this song that I'm gonna sound so old. This is a song the kids really love these days. Called Chicken Wing. It's like okay, so I'm thank you for making it so I don't have to sing it. So the Minions have a version, like a cover of Chicken Wing. So it's that song, except them being like chicken wing, potato and banana, or like something like that, right? Like instead of just whatever the other lyrics are. So I think that's how they've built a relationship with the Minions.
Okay,
that's true. That the marketing for it is a stronger pull immediately than something like Toy Story. And again, that's only with one of my kids. Like the other one, she was like, "Yeah, it's Toy Story. Let's go." I like those movies, and actually, Disney Parks probably helps with that a little bit too, because they really like the Toy Story Midway Mania ride. I don't know if you've ever been on that, because I don't think that's in Disney World.
That area, Hollywood Studios has a big Toy Story area. Okay. And we walked through the Slinky Dog roller coaster, I want to say, right?
And we don't have that.
And yeah, Henry was asking why they keep making Toy Stories, and I was like, well, Rachel, my wife, read an article a million years ago, and it essentially pointed out once it's in the parks, they have to, because if the kids aren't excited to go to that part of the parks, then they don't, so they have to keep it relevant. So
yeah, and California Adventure a few years ago, I don't remember how long ago, like completely reskinned all of the rides to be more Pixar. Like they struck a deal with Pixar at some point to be like, we're going to make California Adventure mostly Pixar themed. And so Pixar, very strong presence in Disneyland. Anyway, for people listening to this, because like we can't assume all of our listeners are like, yeah, Toy Story 5, when's that episode coming out? just being honest. So what kind of advice do we have if we want to go to recommendation algorithm, a segment in which we establish the audience of a film? Like, what advice do we have about particularly people who are like not that invested in Toy Story as a franchise? Like maybe they've missed a couple movies along the way. Like members of my extended family were like, "Do I want to go see that?" Like, how many of these movies are there? I don't know if I've seen one. Maybe I've seen two. Like, you know, so like, what do we feel like this is accessible enough to just jump in as is, or do people really have to have seen all of the movies?
It's a good question. I mean, I think I can imagine somebody who only saw the first one and jumped to five. Like, you'd be confused, but I don't think there's any real difficulty that bears on the plot or the themes, right? You'd be like, oh, the toys just have a new kid. Sure. And actually, if you only saw the first one, maybe you'd forget that they had a different kid and that this much time has passed. And so I certainly don't think the other Toy Stories are a requirement. But, you know, I do want to voice before we get too much further is that, like, even being critical of a Toy Story movie, these are the gold standard still of Pixar. And that means they're way better than 99% of what gets put out for kids' content. So, see my earlier conversation about Paw Patrol movies. But, like, that just means they're generally worth your time. Now, like, I think Toy Story 3 to me stands out as that really transcended like family home entertainment. Like, you know, people I know who were like young people in college were like, yeah, I saw that and it destroyed me. It's so good and it's a masterpiece. And I do think 4 and 5 don't hit that level. Like, you know, there's a reason why our childless co-host is not here because like he's not totally motivated to go see it. And, you know, I think PT had asked both of us like, oh, should I? And it has some general interest. I don't know his history with the franchise either. But it's like, yeah, I don't know that I'd tell my other friends without kids, like, you got to check out this one as a part of that. So despite it being a very positive review or my warm feelings towards it, I would probably say if you don't feel an attachment to these characters, I don't think you're going to gain one from this movie.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think it's neither prohibitive nor inviting. I think if you haven't seen if you don't have attachment to the franchise, because I think like there's nothing in the plot that it requires remembering story. In fact, it actually does a pretty good job when you do need to, when it is kind of building on something from a previous movie, it reminds you through like a flashback or something like that. So I think it's all in there and you don't necessarily need to have seen it. But there are definitely some like in jokes. I feel like that if you don't remember a lot of the previous movies, especially actually I would say Toy Story 1. So I would say if you haven't seen Toy Story 1, at least watch that and then you'll probably be okay. Because I don't know if you agree with that. Like it does have a weird like wistfulness for the first Toy Story movie in a way that maybe 4 didn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of material related to 2 here as well. So it does feel like they've woven it together. And again, some of the problems when you get to the 5th installment is like you pointed out, one of the things you loved about 4 was like the entrance of Duke Kaboom and I don't know their names, but Key and Peele's characters, the bunny and the duck
and bunny.
And then the return of Bo Peep, which was great and exciting and all those things. And then it is really like this movie can't manage those characters, right? Like they kind of essentially have cameos. And you could, you know, we're from the age where they would do like the 0.5 sequels on DVD or something. Like you could do one of those and have another sequel that just follows what Woody and Bo Peep and that group have been doing.
Greg, those would be Disney Plus shorts now.
That's true. Oh, you're totally right. Yeah, just something to keep the content flowing. And they did just do like a Monsters University spin-offy thing as well, true. Right? So something like that, like a show. But you're right. That's the place they would be. And so, but you could imagine some fans of 4 coming and being like, "Oh, I can't wait to see Duck and Bunny again." And I don't believe they paid out for Key and Peele. I think those 2 characters don't speak this time around.
There was a lot of nodding.
Yeah, yeah.
A
But
lot of
Keanu did show
cost
up, or at
effective
least
nodding.
gave permission for his old
Mhm.
sound clips,
Sure.
so, they got there, so, yeah, and then, you pointed out smartly in our outline, like, one of the charms of this series is that sometimes the installments, beyond just focusing more on a character, that they kind of borrow from genres, and I think you rightfully say 2 very much feels like a Western, both in some of the initial setup and then that particularly that kind of show piece at the end, the set piece at the end where they chase the plane in that one. Now I'm just like nervous about spoiling Toy Story 2. But yeah, and then 3 set in the daycare had kind of a jailbreak heist kind of feel to it at times. Hey, look at that. I stole your question. Now I can throw it to you first. So did you feel like there was a genre this one was playing with or that you felt more present?
Well, I didn't, and a genre didn't jump out to me, but I do feel like the character, and again, it's hard to answer this question in the way I'm going to answer it without being spoilery, but there's like a character arc here that does feel almost like a genre unto itself, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Where it's like a character returning to the place that they used to be.
Yeah, The
I'm trying to
Odyssey
be
by
so
Homer. It's pretty old.
there we
Yeah.
go. Um, and then yeah, there's a lot of kind of like revisiting old memories in this
Yep.
movie. That I do feel like you could point to other movies. Of course, I'm not gonna be able to think of any right now, but like you could point to other movies to be like, oh yeah, like that's definitely from other things. But in terms of like yeah, I don't know. Did you think of a genre?
I mean, the thing that came to mind when I read your excellent question earlier was the only thing that came to mind is there's a little bit the way that the kids and families and adults are shown engaging with tech. There's something kind of Stepford Wives kind of about
Oh,
it, like
yeah,
body replacement. Like what happened to Bonnie? Because Bonnie kind of turns a little into a zombie when she's fully engaged with Lily Pad. So there's like a little of that, but I think it is. You're right. That's more like little homages, right? Like there's a particular scene with some characters we won't mention that very much is reminiscent of Apocalypse Now, right? The coming out of the water,
yeah.
which Grogu also did this summer. So Disney's really into Coppola this summer. But yeah, so some kind of things like that where you're like, oh, that's a shot like that, or so on. But it isn't kind of neatly fit into a genre totally.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a
which
little
is
bit of
okay.
because there are these dream sequences, I guess maybe to be vague about them,
Yeah,
that are
play
usually very
sequences.
yeah, which are very Bridgerton coded. I don't know
Oh,
if you picked up on that at all. Um,
yeah. Oh, sorry.
so
I got distracted in those because I did think, again, seeing the age of Toy Story, we've had play sequences before, but I was like, oh, this is a post Spider-Verse
oh
play
yeah, because the
sequence where we
animation
have
style.
to make it kind of has that Spider-Gwen universe feel of some kind of watercolor. And it's gorgeous. It's great animation, but I was like, yeah, I don't know if you would have done that if Spider-Verse wasn't around, which is really interesting because I'm sure even the creators of Spider-Verse would say, yeah, we owe everything to the people who made the original Toy Story. So
Mhm.
it's just kind of where our art is more than direct stealing or
Yeah.
referencing.
Maybe this is a ranch movie. I don't know if that's a genre because like I don't. It's not a western in the like stick 'em up cowboy kind of way,
No.
but it does have like a horse. It's just like a
Yeah.
I don't
Toy
know.
Story franchise gets its first horse girl, which is such a
Yeah.
common type. Like I think at my elementary school class, there were like 4 horse girls, right? Just and with all due love and respect, I followed one on Facebook recently until I left Facebook, and it was like, oh, you're still buying model horses. And look, I buy Star Wars action figures, so I'm not throwing any stones. But I was like, wow, that horses are potent stuff. Yeah, so there's a little bit of kind of ranchiness to that. And a lot of those kind of homesteader movies are about community and
Mm.
connections. There's some themes there that you could
Yeah.
you could make a case for.
And there's definitely
Um,
like a country mouse, city mouse thing that's kind of happening too under the
yeah,
surface
that's true. That's
because they
true.
keep, yeah. Well, we're getting too dangerously close to
Dangerously
actually
close to spoilers that people
spoiling.
probably never mind. So
Yeah, I guess so.
I
Um,
remember right before a different Pixar sequel, right before Incredibles 2, my son saw a book in my wife's bookstore at the time, and I bought it for him. And I remember that night I'm reading him, and I was like, No, this is the entire plot of Incredibles 2, and it's just out there in a like I can read book like a month before the movie comes out, and I had no
Oh,
idea. So I don't think Disney is too precious about spoilers
that's
either.
probably true.
But
All right. But that said, I think it's probably time to go to spoiler mode. If you have not seen Toy Story 5 and you don't want it spoiled, please, go check the movie out. Go with your family, enjoy it, and rejoin us for the rest of the conversation. Yeah, I guess per our previous conversation, I didn't actually have like a big twist or reveal that like we could start with, but I did want to kind of start digging into the themes of technology and kids in this movie, because I think that has kind of been the big selling point, but also kind of like what makes this movie notable in the franchise, right? Because it's kind of like trying to be more topical. Because I remember in like a bunch of podcasters, when this movie got like announced or there was a trailer or a CinemaCon present, was some anytime there was any like pre-release hype, it was always like, but now technology is or like screens are the villains, and that was kind of like the big pitch for it, right? So how well do you think it actually handled that? In your short take, you said that you thought they handled it pretty well, but like say more about what you think about that.
sure. Although bracketed sidebar, I think there is a pretty big spoiler in this movie, an event that changes a lot of the Toy Story universe, and you're skipping right over it, which surprises
What
me.
is it?
So maybe,
Wait.
well, we'll get to it. I don't want to
Okay.
derail this conversation, but give me topic 2 in spoiler mode. So back to the tech question, I was realizing it's funny that but that Toy Story took this long to get to tech, because the initial Woody Buzz kind of conflict, it's kind of coded more in like westerns versus space race than it
Hmm.
is like the arrival of tech in. And like Andy in the original one has a speak and spell, so which is more of an 80s toy than a 90s toy, so
Yeah.
it's kind of always been out of time in some ways. But I thought in general I was expecting this to be a like, let's all smash our iPads and rid ourselves of technology, which is very silly. I thought of that considering Pixar is obviously a major technology, and Disney has a lot of money invested in all these different things. I we just got an Apple Arcade membership in my house for the summer. It's like everything has a bluey skin on it right now. It's like, oh man, Disney's just raking in those licensing fees. So I thought it was surprising to me, even though in hindsight it shouldn't have been. And largely, I think the movie kind of makes tech out to be the villain, but then points out the ways in which LilyPad, if used well as a tool, was actually trying to help Bonnie and improve Bonnie. And it becomes a little bit more about like internet danger than it really does the presence of tech. And tech is involved in the solution. We have 3 tech characters who are kind of at the core of this. And because they're involved in the solution, I don't think the message ends up being, don't use tech at all. It's like use tech for the roles it should have, as a camera, as a GPS hippopotamus, and as a Conan O'Brien themed toilet training device.
All right. Yeah, I was wondering how long it would take before you brought that up. The second when I was watching, because I don't think I knew that he was a voice in this movie. I'm trying to
Oh,
remember.
cool.
And so when that came up, I was like, of course, Conan O'Brien is in this, and of course he's playing like a toilet training device. My favorite line in this is probably like when Jesse's like, "I will never play your poop game," and he goes, "That's what they all say." And it's like it's just so Conan. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's for better or worse, and I'll get my thought out of the way. I did find it a little distracting just because it's so Conan-y. So for
Yeah.
better or worse, it is very much just Conan O'Brien as a toy, and like especially I think if you listen to his podcast, like you've heard him do all these little bits and things he does, and then they lean into it too because in one of the play sequences, the Mr. Smarty Pants toy suddenly sprouts the Conan hairdo, right?
Yes.
In the wedding reception one, I think, or the ball one. So it's like they knew what they were doing, and it feels a little bit like Robin Williams being the genie or something, right? Like it's a little something
Right.
for the
Inseparable.
dads and the moms. So
Mhm. I liked it because I do think it was a little bit more nuanced than I expected, kind of as you were saying. but more specifically because at the end of the day, it kind of was landing on the tech is in of itself is not intrinsically bad, but like we have to think about the age appropriateness of it, and we have to be intervening and supervising as parents. I thought that was the
Yeah.
really helpful takeaway, because it's like, how heartbreaking is it when you see Bonnie like being bullied by these other girls on this like group chat. And like,
Yeah.
how old is Bonnie supposed to be? Do we know?
Way too young, like 6 or 7,
That's what I
because
thought, but like,
she has advanced in age, but she's definitely under 10, which to me means you don't get to go on the internet, in my
right.
opinion. But
Um, so she's in Toy Story 4, she's 4 years old.
right, because she makes Forky when it's her first day visiting kindergarten before the
That's
summer
right.
break.
Yes.
And so I'm pretty sure maybe a first grader at this point, or
Yeah,
at
that
most
sounds
like a
right.
second grader, but way too young to have social media and texting, right? Like,
Right. Yeah. But how heartbreaking is it when you see her going through that, and then she doesn't have any impulse to tell her parents, right? Like there's a
yeah,
dramatic irony there that we know what she's going through, but her parents have no idea. And it's like, that's like one of my worst nightmares, right? That there's something going on with my child that they don't feel comfortable sharing with me, and that I have no way to help them because of that, right? So it's like, oh, like that was hard. That was really heartbreaking to see, and like very timely for me, because my daughter is going into 4th grade, and I guess when you become a 3rd grader at our elementary school, your Chromebook becomes yours. Like it's
oh,
like not in terms of ownership, but like in terms of like you get one that is always
you're
with
not
you.
pulling off a cart anymore
Yeah,
or
yeah.
anything.
You
Yeah,
get you
yeah.
take it home. Like you take it home, and I remember the big like for me sort of unpleasant surprise of the end of the school year was like she was so excited that she got to take her Chromebook home for the
Mhm.
summer, because now it's hers, right? It's like the one she's always going to have. And next year she'll be able to take it home every night and have to do homework on it and stuff like that. And I was like, say what? Like we now have this device in our house that I don't know like how to, and apologies to her as an adult if she listens to this episode later, but like her friends, because they have access to Google Slides, had figured out a way to make like a chat room basically,
Oh,
because they
sure,
can
like
share
commenting on
slides
each
with each
other.
other and like
Yeah.
leave notes for each other. And so the big deal where she was like, I got to get on my Chromebook because I got to check the chat. And I'm like, excuse
Oh,
me, what are you
wow.
talking about? And so that's those scenes with, so as a good parent, I immediately established a rule that like, okay, you can use this chat, but you have to always tell me like share with me what you're going to type on there. Like there has to be a
Yeah.
level of supervision in order for this to be okay. And when I saw this movie, like we talked about it afterwards, like, see, this is why this is why I set that rule. Like, and she didn't give me pushback or anything. So I think she understood, but yeah, that really hit close to home for me. I was like, I just
Yeah.
went through this.
How could it not? Well, and I want to jump earlier in the movie too, when the moment where we see Bonnie try to make friends with the neighbors across the street, and they laugh at her, and she takes it as they're making fun of me, and the kind of impulse the parents have in that moment felt so like strong to me, that these parents are not established characters. They're very goofy in the fourth one, if anything, especially the dad.
Bumbling. They're
Um,
bumbling.
Bumbling, yes. And so they kind of immediately just, it's such a parent impulse to be like, what's going wrong? Oh my God, I can't control that. It's hurt her so deeply. What do I do? Let me go see what the internet says. And then they try to solve it with Lily Pad, which again, the screenplay is very clear. Like, it is marketed as we will help your social development of your kid. And like, yeah, if my kids have a struggle in some way, I reach out to the tools and the suggestions as quickly as I can. So, but then the parents kind of go MIA, right? They're not seemingly aware of what's happening on the devices. And I think the movie, in my opinion, just sets them totally out of the picture in order to tell a simplified story.
Yeah.
Which, like, if we had like long portions of the movie where the mom and dad were going through the parental controls and setting filters, like, that doesn't sound like good storytelling. But there is a way which you kind of have to be like, well, I don't think we're also supposed to think they're like neglectful parents. They're just bumbling, maybe again, and
Right.
they're trying to figure
They're
this out. And they can't.
ill-equipped, right? They're
Yeah.
like not prepared to handle this. It seems like, and they have
Well,
to kind of
and
learn as they go.
on the subject, I also want to just throw in, look, former LTR winner, just absolute goddess among humans. Greta Lee is here as the lily pad, and she's so good. And I feel in Spider Verse, she's also a computer, right? It's in the second one, and I don't think she's her own spider person. I think she's isn't there a hacker? So she's there also in kind of a computer role because she has such a great, like, I'm just a GPS or I'm Siri, but not Siri voice, like that she does so well.
Lila? Oh man, I don't remember this at all.
I think that's like the AI they all talk to, like that. It's like the Spider-Verse Jarvis, kind of.
Yeah. I think you're right. Yes.
Yeah.
Lie rate life form approximation. Yeah, there was no way I was going to remember that.
Yeah. But it's really great and it's really fun. And it's funny that the what I didn't expect is that the lily pad goes through its own little arc where like she thought she was helping Bonnie and was doing what was right and then donates herself, which is
that was
just a
rough.
funny thing to say out loud. But yeah, and like it is really good the way it's presented. And I was just gonna also say like the part that hit home for me is, you know, my kids have had friend trouble. My daughter is very shy and my son went through a phase where was really with some good friends and then classrooms got shuffled, and that is hard to kind of go through in elementary school. And so like those pieces really felt realistic to me, and I found myself kind of looking over and be like, are they okay? Are they like, is it clicking? And they were more invested, I think, in the story than saying like, oh my God, it's me. But it did on those levels. I think this movie was as strong as the franchise has been about dealing with the actual life of the kids.
Yeah. And it actually made me realize that the focus of the original movies were actually not about the kids at all. Right?
No.
Like it was the kids were very much like the grown-ups in Peanuts going wah, 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 wah. Like they would be on the periphery, and it really would be about the toys interacting with each other. And it's so interesting that and I think healthy for the franchise to kind of evolve. So it is more about the kids themselves and the kids' relationship to the toys and how the toys help them. Whereas like, you know, Toy Story 1 doesn't necessarily care about Andy's life at all.
I was just thinking
right?
It would be, if you made that movie today, you would absolutely have Andy and Sid have some kind of plot line, right? The fact that they live next to each other, although I guess Andy's moving away from Sid. Like, I wonder if that's a function of the animation, that they couldn't do humans as well. And, you know, if you go back to that first one, it's wonderful. It has its charms. But I think I said this somewhere recently online. Like, I would almost like to see them do a like remaster like they do in video games, because like the dog looks atrociously bad, because it wasn't until Monsters University, I think, or sorry, Monsters Inc. that they mastered the hair for Sully, and then they have continued to improve. So
Greg's
I saw
grudge
somebody
against
online stitch together the cat from Toy Story 4 with the dog from Toy Story 1, and it's like, yeah, they've come a long way.
Oh wow. I was going to say your grudge against CG dogs continues. You just can't let it go.
Yeah. Well, and I think that dog is very much a cartoon dog, whereas now the humans and animals around the toys are pretty photorealistic for the most part.
Yeah.
So.
And I think part of it's just the premise of the original Toy Story movie was there's this hidden world that you don't know about, right? Like, and it was very much about like, what do the toys do when we're not looking or when we're not in the room? And now it's not about that. Now it's about, you know, childhood and like what the toys mean to you in your life and what function toys serve to children and like all this other stuff. So it's cool to see that. I think that's healthy growth of the franchise.
Yep.
Maybe it counts for why it has been so long running.
Well, and I was thinking about that because again, this goes back to Toy Story 2 as well, which I might point to as the most important watch for this one. I didn't want to say it beforehand, but what Jen was referring to obliquely, you all know if you came to spoiler mode, is the fact we go to Jesse's house, where Jesse lived and where Jesse was played with. In the very, very hard to watch Toy Story 2 Will Make You Cry montage, where Jessie was abandoned on the side of the road by her former owner. And so we get a nifty little retcon that it turns out Jessie has had the name and address of Emily, right?
Yes.
Inside her, what would that be in cowboy lingo? Her chap? I think it's a chap, right? Because
it's on her leg.
Yeah, but a chap is what you have covering your legs, but not your butt, right? And I think that's what it is.
Okay.
I just told you how many horse girls I grew up near. Come on,
All right. All
I
right.
can I got
I'll
this.
defer to you.
Uh, and so like I will say that was probably the biggest surprise for me, and then I will then feed it back to you. The big tearjerker moment in this one is the fact that Jesse goes back to this house and goes to the tree and finds uh, her name scratched into a tree that it doesn't make sense, and digs out a time capsule. And all of this figures out Emily eventually named her daughter Jessie. And that's pretty powerful stuff. I think that's the big spoiler of this movie.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't thought of that because that is so specific to the Jesse character. But yes, like I got emotional during that for sure. I was like, oh no, and they the way that they shot is the wrong word, but the way that that's edited together
Yeah.
and kind of leads you to be like, wait, what is it? What is it? What's in the box? And then you realize, like we realize what's going on sooner than Jesse does, and I think that's really powerful in terms of the storytelling. So, I also was like, oh, like she named it Jessie after her daughter. She did matter.
She did matter. And then that's where we get closer to like a theme that this franchise has used before, but Jesse really coming to accept we are there when they need him. It's a very parenting lesson she comes to. I actually thought of Yoda, right? We are what they grow beyond. That is the burden of all masters. Because it felt like that's what in this weird universe where like, because the other thing about Jesse and Woody too is like they are
They're
old,
antiques.
right?
Yep.
They're from the 50s, and then we know Jesse was kind of abandoned because the Emily got it more into like Beatlemania. It kind of was coded like 60s pop and left her behind. And then the daughter Jessie, was then using cassettes like an 80s coded daughter. And now, I mean, this appears to be the present day. And so this is like a 75-year-old toy, which is just nuts.
Yeah.
Which
You
is
could
maybe
make
why Woody's balding.
You could. Where's the brown marker? You could make the argument that because in Toy Story 2, Jessie has been preserved in the box. That she's less
in the case. Yeah.
In the case. That like she's spent more time like she's not like, I don't mean she's not unopened or something like that. But like
Right.
like you know what I mean? Like in Toy Story 2, they imply that she spent decades like without being played with. And so I think you could argue that that's why she's, but I don't know. The materials they used back then, like clearly would have worn down in a way that doesn't make sense. But what you're making me realize is actually in the way that Toy Story 4 was Woody's like midlife crisis / like dealing with aging or like existential, like what is my purpose now that I don't have a child or whatever. This movie is kind of the equivalent for Jessie, right? Because she kind of like confronts the pain of her past of being given up, and then like is like has this whole thing where she's like, I don't want to be like, I don't want to go through that all over again. Like she's reached a point where she's like, I don't think I have another cycle of being loved by a kid and then ditched by a kid in me. Like she's like, I can't do it.
That's interesting because we were joking before about her odyssey, right? That she is kind of on a return journey. Thank you, Don Draper, for teaching us it's a nostos, right? And I do think that there's something to it that if you were trying to map this onto the Joseph Campbell hero cycle, it's like very much the end of her journey, and it's like the fear of having to start it over again. And it's a retirement story, right? It's that like you just quoted, like she doesn't have another kid in her and she's been through all this before. And that's like really weird in a kid's movie, right? And like
Yes.
the kind of brilliance of Pixar is that like my kids don't think about this as like an elderly person retiring, but also like they understand the emotions of it, and that is the magic trick of this franchise, that they get the emotions through and the resonances without forcing you to like one-to-one connect it with some kind of larger message.
It also builds in a level of relatability for parents, right? Because even if the kids are like, why is Woody so sad? that he's been around forever, right? Like I can definitely see parents of a certain age being like, "Oh wow, right? Like
Yeah.
what is my purpose once my kids are all grown up or like whatever, right?"
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like that. I was surprised that the this film centered on Jessie, but was really happy about that because I do feel like since Toy Story 2, she's like kind of just been Buzz Lightyear's arm candy, or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she hasn't really had much to do as a character. She's just been like, "All right, Woody, I'll go do that," and then she goes and helps in some way. Right? Like she hasn't had much character development since Toy Story 2. So I'm glad. Like, did they need? I guess like a good question would be like, did they need to return to her story in Toy Story 2 in order to move her character forward? The answer is probably yes, I guess. But like, um, but I'm
Well,
glad.
and it's funny because I know we're both listeners of Big Picture, where Amanda Dobbins talks a lot about like every movie needs to stop being therapy, but yet I didn't ever feel like this was therapizing. Like it wasn't Jessie revisiting the trauma of her youth in order to move forward, even though that does kind of fit neatly onto the patterns here. It just, I think part of it is like it was not a willing journey. She kind of got forced
Mm,
back in accidentally, and then in the the main action, she's still not trying to like reconcile herself with Emily. She's upset she's been back and is still just working for Bonnie. So that also feels like parenting. Like, oh, like, I can take my kids to my hometown and I can remember, oh, that's where I got teased or that's where I did something awesome or whatever it is. But like, you kind of have to just layer on that new life on top of that and not
mhm.
really dwell in the past within that. So, well, and I think you gave us a transition to a question you had further down, which was the romance between Buzz and Jesse. And I will say something I find strange is how often a kids animated movie will like build in a plot line of like one character needing to propose to the other. Frozen 2 comes to mind, I believe. And there are other times where you have some kind of unrequited love like this. So I will say I would probably trim that. I mean, not that this movie's already a pretty lean like 95 minutes, so we don't need to be trimming, but I don't know that it totally worked for me. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. I wrote this question in the outline, and it was really hard for me to not word it in a way that showed my hand in terms of like I
Mm,
thought this was kind of silly and didn't need to be here, and yeah, and it kind of like I hope the next movie is Buzz's movie, if that makes sense, because
mm,
like we he hasn't had a similar moment of like actually being not comic relief for a while. I want to say, you know what I mean? Like I guess his big revelation was in Toy Story 1, where he becomes self-aware and
that's
realizes he's
true.
a toy and not Buzz Lightyear. So maybe we've already done enough early on with him, but I just felt like it kind of reduced him as a character to just like being like this kind of like emotionally unintelligent idiot who didn't know how to express his feelings to Jesse. Like, and made him one dimensional in a way that I didn't love. And also just like kind of silly. Like, yes, like it maybe it's a means to an ends decision where because so much of the play, like the book ending play scenes are both weddings, right?
Mm,
Where it's like who poisoned the maid of honor, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
then at the end it's Buzz and Jesse getting married. So I guess like, I don't know. Again, I don't know if that justifies reducing Buzz to this weird thing. And then the other thing is that it can also be a means to an end for getting Woody and Buzz back in their frenemy mode from Toy Story
Mm,
1. Because I did feel like them being like, "Well, I'm the deputy. No, I'm the deputy." Like made it
yeah.
kind of like got us to the point where is it Mr. Potato Head says like it's good to see them fighting again or
Yeah.
whatever, right? Like, and I feel like we went through all of that. We bent over backwards just so that we can get to that moment, and I don't know if that's worth it to create like a weird not love triangle of like, but I'm like that but Buzz and Woody both think they're Jesse's deputy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was
It's
weird.
still more power than romance in
Yeah.
their conflict. Yeah. Well, and that's a good point about Buzz, and they did. Wasn't it in 3? I think the last shot of the movie is Spanish Buzz like doing the tango with Jesse, right? So
That's right.
so like
It's oh no. It's like a Buena Vista Social Club song or something. Or
No,
no,
well, it's "You've Got a Friend in
Bambaleo?
Me" in Spanish, isn't it? It's like "Tengo
Yeah,
un
but
amigo en me."
oh, you're right. You're right. Yes.
My high school Spanish just failing me all over the place. But like, well, because it would be the second person. You've got so tienes un amigo. Anyway, um, but it felt to me like that had been seeded for a while and was always a little weird because it's like the key relationship in this franchise is Woody and Buzz. And it's like we're frenemies, we're best buds, we got a bromance going on. Oh wait, there's a version of you that's a female and I can get married to her. That's a little weird. Like
Oh, I
uh
can't unthink that now. Thanks, Gray.
I mean, Woody and Jesse are more unique than that, right? I mean, we all had those toys growing up where it was like literally just like the two genders of the same character or something like that. Whereas they're unique characters within the show, at least. But
It's Gypsy
uh,
Kings that do that song.
yeah,
I was like, I know it's some famous Latin band that
but it is
does the
they are
Spanish.
covering Randy Newman, right?
Yes. You're
Yeah,
correct. It
I
is
see.
the so you're right. It's I un amigo en me.
I,
There is
but
a
that's
friend in
like,
me, which is more
yeah,
that's like more correct Spanish translation, I think.
okay,
Not that I know that much, but
all right. I actually
it's
just read
also
a.
the syllables match up to the
Oh
music
yeah,
because they
so
have
you
to
can
match the
extend it.
syllables to the melody.
I un amigo and me. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because you gotta stretch it. You're right. I just read an awesome book on translation, so this is right up my alley, and yet I'm failing to apply everything I learned. Well, okay, so we reject the romance, and we are just cynical people who hate toys falling in love. Can I ask
I
what?
did like they called her sheriff.
Yeah,
They're like,
yes,
she's
yes.
Sheriff Jesse, right?
She is in charge, and I don't think it was clear to me before this movie that being the like leader of the toy room was like an elected position or a.
Right, that you have to
Well, it's
then
not. It's an
deputize somebody.
appointed.
Yeah.
It's like it's an appointed position, where you name your own successor. But like it worked. It all worked, and I liked Jesse getting that promotion, and I liked that it wasn't Buzz. So the other key relationship here would be Bonnie making friends eventually with the girl who now lives in Emily's house. What did you think of that?
I like that a lot, and it was really sweet how they set it up where it was like the toys were doing a little bit of friend matchmaking, which was really fun, but really that they were so specific about the type of play that Bonnie did and how that is what would make Blaze a good friend for her, right?
Mm.
That Jesse specifically says when I play with when we just like because they have that great scene where she's like, "Wait, you technology toys have never played?" Like,
Mm.
let me show you how it's done. And they have that whole fun sequence where they're like, they're secret agents, there's a bomb gonna explode or whatever. That's Mr. Smarty Pants. I think that's where he has the Conan hair in that
I
scene,
think
right?
that's the
Yeah.
one. Yep.
And he's like he has some like code name and she keeps
Yeah.
mispronouncing it. It's very funny. But the idea that like Jesse, after that scene, Jesse says, the way that we just played feels exactly how I play with Bonnie.
Mm.
I just liked that it was so specific and concrete in how the connection wasn't just, oh, they both like horses or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a little deeper in that in terms of like the kids like not like the operating from the premise that not all kids are compatible as friends, I thought was really nuanced.
Yeah. Well, I'll expand it outward, and there's lots of language in this about how Bonnie is special, and I'm not saying it's like special needs coded or anything like that, but the idea that it's reinforced here that sometimes when you are a different kid, it is hard to find the other different kids, and that just feels so natural to, especially what modern friendship is like. I'm sure you have the same experience where you meet a student on a college campus and you're like, God, you're awesome. You're like the buddy I'd love to have, but you must not fit in here at all. Like you'd be more at home with 30-year-olds than you are with 20-year-olds. And it's like I every time it happens, I'm like, just stay who you are. Like you'll find your people. And maybe that's a little, about who I was and how it took me time to find my people. But like you see the pressures of like what Bonnie faces. Maybe this is all just about how college kids have been really messed up socially since COVID. I say that with love, but like we're running on a social deficit across all levels of society right now, not just college students. But to try to like emphasize that, like, well, it goes back to your very smart comments about obsession, right? Obsession is all about what if we could just bypass the hard work of friendship and just be, well, in that case, romantic love. But this lily pad is like, let's just skip the hard parts of friendship. We'll put you in a group chat and you'll all play the same game and then you'll be happy. And like the actual work of like negotiating that is more what we see Bonnie and Blaze do. And it has a false start, right? Where they're afraid to reveal parts of themselves, and that eventually builds to it. And I think, I hope that my kids took that away from this film, that they're thinking like, oh, it's okay if it takes me some time, or I just have to find my Blaze, my right person to become friends with.
Yeah, and you're making me realize that the movie actually, maybe I need to play the Thesis Please music for what I'm about to say.
Thesis, please?
Or not music, the
music.
Sound cue.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know. Everything else is music. That's why I said it.
Music to my ears.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yes. But what you're saying makes me realize that I think the movie's thesis is that technology can offer connection, but not necessarily friendship, that friendship requires something more. Right. And like,
yeah.
And by that, I mean, like, the technology can put the kids in the chat so they are connected, right? It could introduce them to each other or give them a means through which to communicate, but that doesn't necessarily mean they will be friends. Because
Right.
that's sort of what happens with Dance Girls. This is the group chat name, right? Because given the first
you're
opportunity,
just stereotyping, just girls who dance. Just no, you're right.
My daughter dances, so I wouldn't cast aspersions on that. But you know what I mean? Like in that group chat, given the first opportunity, those other kids will ostracize her because they aren't the same and they aren't really compatible as friends. And I think the mom, or no, somebody says at some point, like, a real friend wouldn't do that, right? Like a real friend wouldn't make you feel bad for being who you are. I can't remember who says that now, but maybe it's Jesse.
And you're right. And that's the basis of the Blaze-Bonnie friendship, is that Blaze is actually excited when Bonnie reveals that they are her toys and she does care about them, and they realize they can connect. And then you're right. Their shared language of play becomes their world, which is really nice. And like, again, I really want to be clear. I'm not making fun of college kids. Like, it's really hard to make friends. And to your point, when I see, in the 5 minutes before I start my class, you see them all in the first couple weeks swapping Instagram names and making sure they can text and, see each other's. But then they don't actually connect in that kind of friendship way so often. And it's something I think are all dealing with in this modern age. And I complain about my friends more than anyone else in my life with love, but it's like we all have just kind of fallen away from having those meaningful connections and kind of are in the superfluous word of, well, I listened to your podcast, or I liked your post, and so on. Like, so it's really strange that like, and you had a little bit of this in rhetorical situations. We're just stealing content all over the place. But I do think the thesis here, because it is technology that does eventually connect Blaze and Bonnie, it's that exactly what you said. Technology can only be the starting point, and then we need to put the work in, put it like Good Place, Soulmates. Did I reference that on this podcast recently? Do you know?
No.
Oh, so one of my favorite definitions of love and soulmates is from The Good Place. In the final season, Michael and Chidi are talking, or maybe it's the third season, and Michael says the definition of soulmates is really just two people who get up each day and put in the work. And like I've always enjoyed that, and I think it applies to this friendship idea, because it's like, yeah, the commitment of a relationship, be it a friendship or romantic love, is that you get up and you put in the work and you attend to the needs of others and what they think about. You can't just check a box and say we're Facebook friends and that means we're real friends.
Right. It's a difference between like parasocial relationships and actual social relationships. I think I'm using those words correctly. But
I think that's right.
yeah, and like, you and I have lots of friends that we've met through the internet, but I feel like they don't actually become real friends until like it doesn't and like, maybe the place to push back is that Jesse says at some point, you can't be friends unless you're like, you can't play together unless you're in the same place, or like she's really focused on like face-to-face in-person interaction. And I think the movie is too, because even the Blaze's dad, like adults get thrown under the bus here too,
Yeah.
right? In terms of like, because every time we kind of like pass by his office, he's just glued to his Zoom screen, right? Like, and is like, that's his main source of social interaction is in Zoom meetings, either for work or otherwise, right? And there's some comment that the mom makes about him or something. It's like, oh, don't, or no, maybe it's the toys where they're like, oh, don't worry, he won't notice. And actually, that was really a clever plot device. Just as a side note, that like, because everyone's so glued to their screens, it made it so much more believable that the toys could be doing all this crazy stuff and no one would notice.
Running through the houses at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so funny. The other thing we haven't talked about yet, that's kind of, well, maybe we should just go into rhetorical situation and then we can open this up a little bit more. So all of our regular co-hosts are writing professors, and we like to have the section of the episode dedicated to making connections to our experience as scholars and teachers. In the teaching of writing, the rhetorical situation refers to any contextual factors that influence composing and interpretation. So the biggie here, right, is the thing we've already started talking about, of this idea of like the technology's role in society, in education. Greg and I, both being educators, have to spend a lot of time, I think, thinking, especially post AI, thinking about the impact that technology has on higher education. So I thought this was a perfect fit for this section, right? Like there's this, that's the most obvious thing for us to talk about. What I'll bring in from what I was about to say before I realized, oh wait, we should save that for rhetorical situation, was that the theme we haven't really talked about is repeatedly throughout the movie, they talk about kids growing up too fast because of technology, and like that they're not able to be kids because they're being exposed to the technology. What did you think about that? And what did that make you think about anything in your own life as a teacher?
So that's part of what, to me, it felt like this movie was conflating tech and internet in ways that weren't always that simple. So I completely think the internet and what kids can get exposed to, I'm not even talking about like the really bad stuff out there, but like I think the general ways in which internet culture infects children does push them to grow up much, much faster. We're in an interesting moment with my son, who is kind of anti internet in some ways, because he sees the effect it has on his classmates. So he sees that like they'll all watch a YouTube video and then they'll all want to buy some weird toy, or they'll all use some new word, and he's very like critical of them and wants to like be his own person and not care, which is great and totally supportive. But then he also like sees the social cost of it too, because then like, they'll all say some new word and he won't know the word, and he's not pulled into it. So I do feel like internet culture, and I put, maybe some of you are listening to us on YouTube, but I always put that, like, that lives in the YouTube part of the internet to me, like the area where there be dragons, right? Like there's great stuff. Like I think there's a lot of good content on YouTube, obviously, but there's a lot of stuff there that I think is exposing kids to ideas and things they shouldn't be seeing kind of faster, and the filters are never keeping up with all of that. Sidebar, I'm like halfway through the new Jane Schoenbraun novel, and they are exactly working on this theme in delightful ways.
Ooh.
So people should buy that book. So that to me is like internet pushes. I don't think, like, especially if you're thinking about like the camera toy, the GPS toy, the Smarty Pants, like that level, even up to the lily pad, I think if it was just a lily pad with like educational games on it, like I wouldn't really fear that in the way it pushed my kids around. Yeah, I have a follow-up that I want to ask you, but you take that question first.
Okay. So I guess this is not really pushing back on what you said, but to add to what you said, I think the wrinkle is that the movie is showing us how being more interested in being on your device than playing has a cost in terms of creativity. And like, if I'm putting my own experience, and the thing I talk about at work all the time now is critical thinking, right? Like, this
Yeah.
idea that like they're so zoned out in front of them. And we get this more at the beginning of the movie than the rest of it, I think, with the like everyone's a zombie thing that you were talking about. Like, it's almost like a body snatcher, not body snatchers, but invasion of, yeah, maybe that,
Like
if
a
we're going back
body
to the genre
replacement.
question.
Yeah, that kind of
Yeah.
sci-fi thing. Yeah.
But they're sort of showing that the play, the physical or imaginative play that is that being displaced by screen time, it is what's actively preventing kids from being kids. Like, they're not developing their sense of creativity and imagination for as long as they would have were we not in a society that had this kind of technology available to kids. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that sounds logical to me. And it is funny, I think the stage of life you and I are at where we know intimately the effect of tech on like 6 to 10-year-olds and also on like 18 to 20, and I certainly see the pattern, and I do see the damage that tech and such has done. And so my follow-up was going to be like, I get asked near constantly at work what my technology policy is in the classroom. And, I think on my campus, I say this again with love, we're in a kind of moment where there's a lot of young faculty and a lot of like faculty nearing retirement. And the faculty nearing retirement, we're like saying within the last year, we should buy for the classroom one of those closet shoe things and have all the students drop their iPhones in on the way in the door, like they do in elementary schools and middle schools, I think. And I was like horrified that, like, no, like, you really think that's going to work? Like, you think that that's going to be effective with a 20-year-old? And like, I have come to a very, like, I've been through this battle in every direction, but my personal technology policy in my syllabus is pretty liberal, because I've just come to the place where you're hurting yourself and you're losing your own money and your own experience. And I struggle to help students realize, I had a student turn in a completely cheating paper at the end of the semester. And they were like, well, I got dumped by my girlfriend this week. And so I just got desperate and I did that. And I was like, did you, or did you spend the last 3 months off topic on your laptop, never listening once? And so when it was actually time to write the paper, I'm sure the girlfriend did dump you because you don't seem that interested. No, I don't mean that. I don't mean that.
Wow.
But I would say, like, helping them recognize the effects their choices have on technology. That's where I'm at as an educator. I struggle with this. I was in a meeting this morning. I'm like, let's pull up a few web browser windows that I can read while I'm listening to the latest enrollment numbers or what have you. And like, I feel like the way to help students right now is to help them do that kind of multitasking, or at least recognize the choices they're making within that. And where I struggle, and I think this is natural 18-year-old brain development, is they don't see the long term. They're like, oh, it's way more fun. I busted a student this semester watching an episode of Yellowstone muted on their laptop while I was lecturing. Like, what are we even doing? Television is not worth it. You should be watching movies. And like, I can joke on the kid and I can like joke, but it's like, when he gets a low grade in my class, does he remember it's because he watched Yellowstone? That's
No,
the
he's not
part I'm
making
still
the
striking
connection.
with.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Are you just full laptops, cell phones? What do you try to say for your students?
It's funny. Have been for a really long time. So the joke I like to make is like, ever since I've been a teacher, I've always been like the tech nerd amongst my colleagues. Like, I've always been one of the people that people turn to be like, oh, like, how do you do that? Like, how do you set up a grade book on Blackboard or what? You know what I mean? Like, and so I've always kind of fulfilled that role. And my classroom has always been very tech forward, in the sense that, like, I was one of the first people, even probably in grad school, I would say.
I was going to say, this all matches where you were 20 years ago.
Yeah. Like, I was one of the first people to go totally paperless in my classroom, and use a lot of stuff online and stuff like that. So I've always been very like tech friendly. And what's really interesting is that I have never really felt compelled Because sort of like you, I'm like, well, like if they're distracting themselves during class and not doing what I'm asking them to do, that's on them, right? Like that's their responsibility. And yeah, Greg is reminding me in the chat that it has been, in fact, 20 years since we were grad student instructors. That is insane. Like Toy Story 1, like not possible that was that long ago. These past few years, with the advent of AI and students' use of it, is the first time I have been compelled to push more analog strategies or time in class. And in fact, like I'm like piloting this like AI focused version of one of our classes in the fall. And I think it's going to be the first time where I have like whole class periods that are technology free and like having them handwrite more. This was always something I did a little bit. Like I used to always have one day that was the token, like, all right, everyone put your devices away. I'm going to give you this notebook and you're going to write by hand. And then we're going to talk about what did you notice about how you were writing and like what was better about that, what was harder about that, like and sort of get them to be more get them to reflect on their own writing process and the material, like show them how the material conditions in which you write do make a difference in terms of what you are writing and how you're writing. So like I've always done a little bit of that, but I feel like that's going to be a much more prominent part so that they do have the imaginative playtime like in this movie, right? So they can just like put everything away and just play and just feel free, right? In a way that I never would have felt pressured to before or felt necessary before. But now I want to be like, no, don't, when I give you a discussion question as a group, I don't want to overhear you say, well, let's just see what ChatGPT says first, right? Which is what they do now. They didn't do that 3 years ago, but they do that now. And I hear them do it. Like, so they're not hiding it or anything like that. But I would say that now I feel like to counteract that, I do want to be able to, like in this movie, sort of like sever that connection sometimes. And I thought the family that goes camping was like kind of a weirdly random part of the movie. And I'm like, why are these other characters here? Are they going to be important? But what I realized is that they had devices with them. But then when they went camping, they totally unplugged and they were reading a physical book to their kids. Right. And I thought so the movie to me ultimately does sort of pave this path forward where it's like we can coexist with technology, but we have to be thoughtful about it and we have to know when to unplug and how to help kids like develop their own skills and creativity on their own without the technology.
Well,
sorry, that was really long.
What maybe I will add, that was a great answer, and I will add, like I think I kind of do harm thyself. Like you can do whatever you want. I try to tell them to keep the phones away, but they all just clone their phone onto their desktop now if they have an Apple device, so it doesn't even matter. But I do think when I start a new unit, I kind of have the kind of showcasey activity. And I imagine if you polled students like 5 years out from my class, those are the ones they remember. Oh, Greg did this cool thing one day. Like when I start doing like rhetorical situation, which is the segment of the podcast we're in, I say, okay, everybody put away your devices and we just have a talk where we pop around the room and I say, it's your best friend's birthday. What are you doing and why? And so then we just, I focus on one kid and you just, oh, I don't care. Like, I'll send a text. I'm like, okay. And the text says like, I love you so much. I value your friendship. And he's like, no, it says happy birthday, bro. And like some balloons. It's like, okay, why balloons? Like, what? And like you unpack all the stuff. And like, I do think that you're right that becomes a form of play in a way that normal classroom activity doesn't. And I think the research shows that lodges the message deeper. The old analogy is like the chemistry teacher that would blow something up and you remember the thing blowing up, but you don't remember what the lesson was on the way to blowing it up or what have you. But I think there's something there. And again, the thing I fear about the most, my classes at my university, I meet 3 times a week. It's 50 minutes. And the number of students who physically cannot be away from their cell phone for 50 minutes is alarming. And I don't mean that about my university. I mean that about our society. Like if you cannot pay for a class and sit through 50 minutes without also having Yellowstone open on a window or whatever else it is it's kind of shocking to me that as a society, we're not engaging this attention question. But at the same time, I think we're seeing a turn. Like I do think younger people are starting to get away from this stuff. And
they're asking they're asking for help too. Like,
Right.
so
And that's
I
our
was on,
role.
yeah, and I was on this big. I'm not gonna go into the details, but I was on this like big AI committee this year that was supposed to like figure out like university strategy for how are we going to move forward with AI? How are we going to respond to the moment kind of? And the survey that we did for students in particular, the biggest message was a kind of a cry for help, like save us from ourselves, like please,
Yeah.
like we see your job as intervening on our behalf to teach us what is a healthy amount or in what ways are healthy for us to be using this kind of technology. And so they recognize that it's important. It was sort of like my kids, where they were like, after watching this movie, they were like, "Yeah, sometimes I want to." I like. I was like, "What did you think? What did you think about when you watched this movie?" And my daughter was like, "That like I don't want to use my screen all the time,
Yeah.
right? And that I want to like go make something or draw something or something like that, or play with my friends, right? That I don't want to be watching something on my iPad all the time." And I think so, but recognizing that and then being actionably responsive to that are two very different things. And that's where the parents come in this movie.
Yeah.
And that we come in the classroom
Educators
kind
and
of.
teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely right. The best student I had student engagement I had about AI this spring was a student. I busted him for like just spitting out a completely garbage AI paper. And he was like, we had a long talk and he admitted it right away. So I didn't have harsh penalties. He redid the assignment, all that. And then he said he was watching a TikTok that night, and it was a kid explaining that he wished he was able to write as well as he did before he started using ChatGPT, and that now he just felt incapable. And I think the moment we're in these technologies is beyond being addictive in terms of screens and all that, is the tools are telling you you're not as smart as the tool. And our students who in a lot of cases didn't think they were going to go to college or aren't sure they belong at college take that message very deeply and like, oh, I could never do as well as this. And like, I think the burden is on us. And I think a lot of our colleagues are failing to rewrite assignments and do innovative things to engage with students, almost like, again, pushing them back towards those tools or the misuse of those tools. I find it fascinating because I teach first years, and like, I think, I'm telling them like, why are you here? Why are you trying to get a degree? And it's always about jobs. And it's like, well, why does your job you want require a degree? It's not because that piece of paper matters. It's because you're supposed to have skills. If you use these tools, are you going to have these skills? And I think it's so hard to get students to think that far, let alone a kid like Bonnie, right? Like, the age of our children, it's like these do seem like magical tools that could help you. And I think you're right that the burden is we can't be Bonnie's parents. We have to be listening and be ready with ideas and replacements when we see the scales tipping.
Right. We have to be proactive and not reactive. Like they are very
Yeah.
reactive. They're like, well, we bought this thing for you. Figure out how to use it. Right. Instead of being ready with like, here's this thing. Here's how you use it. Right. The other thing I want to add to, since we're here, is like, and again, this is K through 12 is not what Greg and I specialize in terms of education. Like we are definitely on the higher ed side. But I can say that like Los Angeles County just recently, I want to say it was like last week, maybe passed a thing, or they decided to pull all technology from K through second grade, kindergarten through second grade.
What a change. It's crazy.
It's huge.
We're making this shift back. So
yeah. So I don't know if that's happening in your neck of the woods. And like now, like I know for my own kids' school district, like a lot of parents are sort of like banding together and going to speak in front of the school board, talking about how they really do want more limitations on the use of technology in like young kids, like Bonnie's age kids' classrooms. So I don't know. Are you seeing that where you are too?
Definitely are, but at the same time, like my daughter just completed her first year of kindergarten, and she, there are portions of the day where they're thrown into a automated program that does literacy and math questions and scales it so that they go and like I certainly am not blaming the teachers or the school district. There is a way in which that's just a helpful way to mind the gap between the youngest or the weakest students and the most advanced students. And we get like a little printout about, I think in December, my son, they're like, the system says he's reading at a 12th grade level. I'm like, he's a fifth grader. He is not reading. Like, he could answer the questions, and I think it's all gamified and so on. So we still see a lot of that. But I will say my kids have not, at any of our schools, have not had Chromebooks that are theirs yet, and they use them from a cart and they give them back. And I'm curious to see when that starts to come in. Parents around here are mostly up in arms because there's been the language around like wait till 8 is what they say about kids with cell phones, like wait till 8th grade.
Interesting.
A bunch of families are like, nope. And
Nope.
families have very good reasons to get their kids phones at a younger age. It's not something my son needs in the way our family is structured and the way we do pickups and stuff, but like totally good reasons to do it. But like, I'm like, oh, my son's in 5th grade and I see kids with iPhones and they immediately get outside. I got stuck behind this kid one day. He immediately started doing like a Candy Crush style game, just like walking down the sidewalk towards Main Street. I'm like, dude, like he pushed his way out from all his friends and just started staring at that and doing that as he walked down the street. And like, it's scary that the addiction happens. So, obviously I think, any parents listening are like, yeah, we're in the same battles, but it's really, really hard. And I think we all try to not blame parents for the necessities, but also see a lot of irresponsible choices.
And this movie acknowledges that everyone, even Lilypad, has the kid's best interest at heart. You know what I mean? Like at no point is anyone like being sinister about it, kind of like Lilypad presents that way at the beginning, but then we learn that like she can recognize that, oh no, I hurt Bonnie, right? By putting her in this position. But it also recognizes the social pressure thing of like it being a parent in this day and age, like, is so much harder because once your kid learns about what other kids have, then the conversation about, oh no, you can't have that yet, becomes infinitely harder.
Yep.
Right. Because they want it so badly.
The parents at the beginning, like, oh, is our kid left out? Like, oh, if I don't, it like, yeah. So it's, yeah. And again, I wouldn't say this movie is perfect, but it's pretty good at figuring out these things with nuance and not swinging a big stick at these problems. And again, I think your daughter sounds like she got more than my son. I will say my son's first words when we left the theater was, "Do they really make a Buzz Lightyear drone like that?" Because Buzz gets major upgrades here, and I was laughing with him on the car ride home because. Honestly, I remember in 1995, we left that movie and I was like, can you imagine if they could make a toy that did all those things? And it was like, at that time, you couldn't imagine a toy that had a sound box, plus could fit the folded up wings, plus could do the karate chop. And now, like, Disney Store sells Buzzes that have all of Buzz's abilities, and not a flying toy. But other than that,
they probably will now.
There. And like, so he's like, do they really make one with drones? I'm like, I can see it coming. Like, and then my reason for explaining all that to him is like, by the time Toy Story 10 comes out and you're showing it to your son, then I'm sure it'll be like, oh, look at the old fashioned drone Buzz here.
It'll be about like virtual reality and like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what the next step would be.
It would be funny if those toys had leaned into the Lightyear. Like, I almost wonder if
that's funny.
Lightyear had been a runaway success, if they would have looked more like the realistic. That's such a weird. I mean, we didn't even mention that as a part of this franchise.
I totally forgot that movie existed.
Yeah, it's
I don't
bad.
even think I finished that movie.
Yeah,
I watched like the first act, and I was like,
in the Toy Story universe, it makes no sense because the opening is like Andy saw this movie that like brought him to life and made him want to get a cool toy, and then you're like, this movie, like, this is really boring and sad and about loss. It's like Interstellar-y more than it is Star Wars-y. It's like no kid's buying Buzz Lightyear after seeing it.
Anyway. Also, shout out to the teacher or whatever adult is in the post-credit scene that he takes one of the drone Buzz Lightyears. Did you not see this?
I don't remember it. I'm sure I saw it. We stayed. We listened to it.
Oh, you did? Okay. So that's the first, like the mid-credit scene. All the Buzz Lightyears float down from the sky. and
Okay.
each kid grabs one, and there's like an adult who's like presumably a teacher or something who takes one and like hides it behind his back, like I hope no one sees me. I really like. He gets really excited about it, and then he's like, "Oh," and then embarrassed. It's really funny.
Oh, okay. I wonder, maybe my daughter took off her shoes, like totally vegged
Oh,
out.
so
in
it was
the movie
probably
theater.
during
I might
that.
have been like distracted, like trying to like assemble her.
To be a
outfit again.
parent.
Yeah. But we did stay because I knew specifically, and maybe this is our segue. I knew we had an original song by a major artist that we are definitely going to be talking about next year. So
Yeah, is that our transition to Oscars watch? Let's do it.
yeah.
So, of course, Greg is referring to none other than Taylor Swift, who did an original song. We only hear it in the end credits, right?
Yeah,
The
which
song.
surprised me because usually the song comes in the sad part montage, but we didn't really get one of those. Totally.
Well, so, yeah, because the equivalent in Toy Story 2 is the Sarah McLachlan song, right?
That sounds right. Yeah.
If somebody loved me, or when she loved me, or something like that.
When she loved me. Yeah.
Yeah. So part of me missed that a little bit, and the song, it's fine. It sounds good, but like it's not particularly, to me, it was not particularly memorable. Like if you asked me to hum it right now, I don't think I could.
But at the risk of getting our podcast canceled, that's kind of what my personal relationship with Taylor Swift is like. Like I don't remember a lot of her songs. They're not for me. So like, I think she'll survive. She's doing okay. But without my fandom. But there's no doubt that it's going to be everywhere. I mean, it'll be
Yes.
nominated at every award show, because why wouldn't you want Taylor Swift performing at your Oscar ceremony with Smarty Pants himself hosting, right? Conan's back.
Oh, that's
I think.
true. Oh, what if the Oscars had a bit with the two of them?
Oh yeah, you could,
Like where she sings the song and he comes out as Mr. Smarty Pants.
And Conan and Tom Hanks have been buddies forever. I think
that's
Tom
true.
Hanks was his first and last guest on his Tonight Show. So yeah, they could do a lot of this, and it's one of the last years it's on ABC. So I'm sure Disney would love it if they did a lot with that. I have an internet connection, not a friend, but an internet connection. Really nice podcast host named Mike Celestino, who used to host Who's the Boss, a Star Wars podcast. He's an entertainment reporter in LA, so he was at the premiere, and they brought out Taylor Swift, and he got, with the rest of the theater, got, a little private concert with Taylor Swift. And she was walking the red carpet. There were very funny pictures of her and Conan together, with him just being super dorky and her being, incredibly poised and gorgeous. So, I think this is going to be a major part of its Oscar campaign. And I think when it comes to the song, if there's no "I'm Just Ken," then it feels like it's just about the name. And I think Taylor Swift is literally the biggest name in music. So,
Yeah. Sorry, Diane Warren.
oh,
You'll have to sit out another year. Although I haven't heard about like what her song would be this year. I haven't heard anyone talking about that.
And Dune doesn't do songs, so
Right.
that won't have one. I don't think Moana has an original song, right? I think it's just the old Lin-Manuel
If they did, it would be
Miranda.
super contrived just for that.
Yeah,
Just to be qualified.
it would be Lin-Manuel Miranda doing the scuttlebutt.
A Scuttlebutt Moana mashup. That would,
Crossover. That's the start
like
of
maybe
the
the David
MCU.
Bowie inspired song from Moana by the crab, the
Oh, yeah.
Flight of the Conchords guy. That would be fun.
And we don't have a musical this year that we know of yet. We have the Tony Gilroy one.
Yeah.
Which
I don't know if that would
apparently
have
has Will Arnett in it, because I was listening to his
Oh.
Smart List today, and he dropped in that he was trying something, and Tony Gilroy gave him advice. And I'm like, well, there's no reason those two would be together otherwise.
What a humble brag.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm currently
That's
looking
right.
up.
I did listen to Smart List today. That is the humblest of humble brags.
No, not you, man. Arnett. Jerk. Sorry, I'm trying to frantically look up like early Oscar predictions and to see what people have on there. I should have done this before.
So
we
I
recorded,
will give my overall take on Oscars Watch while you look that up, and say I think this absolutely is the front runner for Best Animated, but will lose if there's some kind of non-CG animated thing that's good, or like something more artistic that's good. I think there's a Shaun the Sheep movie this year, but I wouldn't say that probably would rise, because that's also kind of franchisey.
Did you
Jen,
see the
help-
Wildwood trailer? Because that's the other
I
big
did.
Oscar contender.
Yep, Leica is the studio, right? That does well.
Yeah.
Jen helpfully pointed out, because this is such a long-running franchise, it's actually really interesting that the first two Toy Story movies were not nominated for Best Animated Feature because there was no category for Best Animated Feature yet. And then Toy Story 3 and 4 both won that award. Toy Story 3 is the most nominated in the batch by also getting a nomination for Best Picture and Adapted Screenplay. Again, that would be with the sequel rules. The original Toy Story also got nominated for score, original screenplay, which I believe was Joss Whedon, right? I think he gets screenplay credit on the first Toy Story, and original song. And then it won one of those special achievement awards. The Toy Story 3 is the most winningest by having won original song and Best Animated Feature, whereas Toy Story 4 just won Best Animated Feature. Interesting that Toy Story 2 is the one that suffered the most in probably being a sequel. So didn't get lots of love. So there's a lot in the mix. I would say this does not feel like it will transcend and hit the Best Picture category to me. I think the 5 in the name prevents Oscar voters from taking it too seriously. But I bet the song and I bet the Best Animated Feature. Those are the two.
I mean, that seems fair. I don't know how. But
I don't think I'd argue for
to
more.
me, the more interesting question is, I think it is definitely getting nominated, but is it going to automatically be a front runner for animated feature? I think that's the thing that we're going to have to keep an eye out for going forward, and as we get closer to actual Oscar season, because like it's like you said, like these movies have done so well in the past in that category, but like what would come along that would arguably shake that up? It'd be really interesting to see, but it's early, so I couldn't actually find anything other than the song from the movie Power Ballad. Which, have you watched that yet?
No, I missed that one. It was only in my theater for like a week. It didn't last long. But,
so apparently there's an original song in that.
That makes sense. I think that's the premise of the movie, is that they're fighting over a song.
That's the closest thing to a musical that would have a...
Yeah, and I think there's another Disney animated. Gato is next year, but I think there's a Disney animated one.
Oh, there's the Hexed? Is that this year?
Yeah, that's probably right. Yeah, it's hard to think of. We haven't heard anything in these categories that would be exciting. But obviously this year we wouldn't have heard of Flow yet. So,
that's true.
It's a long way to go. I do
How
think...
close is Taylor Swift to an EGOT?
I mean, has to
She's
have
got
a
the
Grammy.
G.
Has to have probably doesn't have a Tony.
Now that auto-completed way too fast, internet. Other people have been thinking about this also, apparently. Halfway?
Although Lin-Manuel Miranda is very close, right?
Yeah, he only missed because of Encanto would have gotten him an Oscar, right? Was his last shot? No Hamilton pun intended. He missed it. So yeah, Grammys and so Taylor Swift has an Emmy for Outstanding Creative Achievement in Interactive Media for get ready, the Amex Unstaged Taylor Swift Experience project. So she's halfway to an EGOT. So she would still need an Oscar and a Tony.
And the guy we've been spending so much time with lately, Mr. Spielberg, is of course an EGOT, but I was confused why he got a Grammy, and that's for producing the documentary about John Williams, which is a weird Grammy to get.
That is a weird Grammy, but that's how people get EGOTed, like for stuff like that. Like in the category they are not obviously strong in or whatever, that they find a roundabout way to get in there.
And he must have a Tony for Color Purple, I would imagine. No.
That makes no.
He was a producer for the musical A Strange Loop.
What?
I don't know what that is.
Also, how did you manage to bring this back to Spielberg?
I just had to find a way. Yeah. I had to
Is
find
that
a way.
your new task to really make it the summer of Spielberg? To see if you can find a way in every episode we do from now on to link it back to Spielberg?
I'll plug my letterbox in a minute, but I will say I got back around to Always, which means I'm really running out of Spielberg movies to watch this year. So I'm almost done, listeners. I swear.
Did Hopper have a song? Hoppers?
It probably had one over the credits, but I don't recall that
what
it wasn't a musical.
Was anyone famous?
It might not have. It kind of wasn't that.
Oh wait, we're forgetting Lady Gaga.
Of course. Ooh, so we're gonna have Swift versus Gaga.
Swift versus Gaga.
Ooh, that's gonna be good. Yeah. And there go your ratings. They're going to go through the roof. You get both those fandoms.
The Oscars is smart. They
Yeah.
will. Oh, they are doing another song for Moana. If
I
this
would
article
love to
I'm
see
looking at
them
is
get
correct.
Taylor Swift and Lady Gaga with the dueling pianos like Daffy Duck and Donald Duck in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like
Yes.
musical part, like put them both on stage and have them just sing each other's songs at it. Yeah, it'd be awesome.
That's never going to happen. But do you know about a movie called The Debut? Apparently, just at the last moment, I've hit internet gold with some Yahoo.com listicle that has all the songs. So there's a song called Something from a movie called The Debut. It's an A24 film. Greg, why are you not aware of this?
That trailer just came out. It's the Jesse Eisenberg follow-up to his new feature, and it's Giamatti and Julianne Moore.
Those are the faces I'm seeing on this trailer screenshot.
You know the episode of Simpsons where Marge joins a musical and comes alive creatively as a sad housewife? It's that. As a Jesse Eisenberg movie.
Well, that sounds fun.
It's not literally that, but it looks like the plot is like Julianne Moore is sad and then becomes awakened. So, yeah.
So this article lists TK song by Diane Warren. And that says, look, Warren is currently on a 9-year nomination streak. We might not know the name of the movie, but there's a song coming and probably a nod too. Well, that's not helpful. But anyway, sorry, that was me. Thank you for indulging my meandering Googling. Greg, this was super fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad we could squeeze this movie in and finally have an episode. Because we haven't had an episode about any Toy Story movies before, I don't think.
No. That checks out. The podcast didn't exist when 4 came out. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where can folks find you? Plug all the writing that you've been doing because you've been very busy.
Yeah. So when this episode drops, I should have another article up on ioncannon.com. I've had 3 weeks in a row, and I will, if I say it here, then I have to actually write it tomorrow. So the plan as of this writing is the post will be called something like, so how do I sound smart when I talk about the Odyssey at my 4th of July barbecue or something like that? Because I want to give like a primer for things people can say and people should know, because I think a lot of people saw the Odyssey trailer in December and were like, I'm going to read the Odyssey, and probably bought a copy of the Odyssey and then have not read the Odyssey. And you're out of time. So I'll help you out. I'll give you a cheat sheet of what you can say and what you can expect about that. But people can find that on ioncannon.com. I also still have my Disclosure Day review up, as well as I was asked why I watch so many movies, and I tried to answer that question. All those are current, and you can find me on Letterboxd or on Instagram at ioncannon, EYEONCANON. Jen, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Sopchockchai, SOPCHOCKCHAI, or on Letterboxd at Qui-Gon Jen. I guess we'll end by saying, Greg, you've got a friend in me. Thanks for listening. You can follow The Long Take Review on Substack at thelongtake.substack.com. Subscribe for free, and you'll be the first to know when a new episode drops. You will also receive occasional written reviews of new Star Wars and Marvel.